Hello, and welcome again to The Panel, a semi-regular online webloggy review thing that we do for the Santa Fe Reporter. I'm Chris, manager of True Believers Comics in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. Today we will be discussing Wolverine. With me today, Sean Concha and Skylar Van Goonten, Wolverine experts. Okay, so Wolverine. I'm just going to call it Wolverine. It's X-Men Origins Wolverine or something such. I don't know.
Where to begin?
Could it be any more generic?
It's about as generic a movie as you can get. It's basically the geek version of a Fast and the Furious movie. The characters, the storyline, it doesn't have any heart. It's just a movie with action and explosions. And guys with blood splitting out of their arms after Wolverine cuts them. That's all it is.
My main issue is that it resembles the stories of Wolverine, and that's it. It doesn't actually tell the story of Wolverine at all. It just resembles some of the same ideas.
It might as well have been called, Canadian lumberjack guy with sideburns, claws, action hero.
The movie is essentially its Origins comics combined with what you'd call Weapon X comics, I guess. The two different stories about Wolverine. And they were essentially missing, there's tests that are done on him, and the entire operation was completely fake looking. It's not feasible that they could have coated his bones in adamantium in 10 minutes. Yeah, that's the picture I was looking for when I watched the movie that they didn't give me, so.
They try to take these 40 years worth of comic book history and shove it all into one movie so that the fans that aren't comic book geeks don't feel like idiots when they go see the movie. But Jon Favreau did an amazing job with Iron Man, and he did it without making the comic geeks feel, he did it without alienating us, and he did it so that regular fans could just go in there and be like, this is amazing.
That's because Iron Man has no fans.
Well, I think that whoever was doing the casting did a pretty good job. Jackman, obviously, he does look like Wolverine, but
except for not being 5 foot tall.
Right. Here I have a picture of Wade Wilson. And he was played by Ryan Reynolds, which I thought was a pretty good call.
Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool to a T if you let him and you give him witty dialogue to spout throughout his entire role. But when you take that away from him and you glue his mouth shut and you make swords pop out of his wrists in order to emulate Wolverine,
it's physically impossible.
It looks stupid to begin with. He's completely bald, he's got no mouth, and he has swords coming out of his fucking arms. Like, long swords, 6-foot swords, not just claws. You can't ruin Deadpool any more than that.
And then, I also have a picture of Sabretooth that I felt the movie did a pretty good job. As far as, Gambit was okay, but he actually changed accents while talking, which is kind of a weird thing for an actor to do.
Normally, I think Gambit's a total douchebag. And actually, I kind of thought he was cool in the movie, the way they did him. I thought he was the coolest thing about the movie, really. Alright, so, we thought we would mention a few of the Wolverine comics that are actually really, really good. So, Wolverine Weapon X, as originally chronicled in Marvel Comics Presents, 20, 30 years ago by Barry Windsor Smith in Marvel Comics. Beautifully illustrated, and the writing really had this kind of proto-cyberpunk kind of flavor to it, like before anybody had ever heard of Neuromancer or William Gibson or any of that. And I think they totally washed all of that out of the movie. So if you want to see what was up with the crazy Canadian government and all the wacky experimentations they were doing with their super soldiers, I would recommend reading Weapon X.
So if you're interested to know Wolverine's true origin, then this is the book, Wolverine Origins. It has the same title as the movie, but it's going to tell you the real story.
From when he was a kid, right?
Right.
Like 100 years ago.
If you've seen the movie, it may have ruined some of the plot of this book for you, but it's still a great read, and I would suggest it to anybody who's interested in Wolverine.
It's got a bit of the beginning of the movie steals from the beginning of this book.
Exactly.
Next is Mark Millar's Old Man Logan arc, which is currently coming out. This is issue 6 of 8.
Coming out very slowly.
Very slowly. It's almost a year old at this point. Like any Wolverine, or like any comic book character, it just depends on who's writing it. Mark Millar's a fantastic author. He's taken Wolverine into a dystopian type future where Logan is old. He's an old man now. And he's just doing... It's not new stuff, but it's really inventive stuff that he's doing with him.
I tell people it's Road Warrior Wolverine.
That's good. And as a throwaway, I think Ultimate Hulk versus Wolverine.
That's a great one. Wolverine, Old Man Logan is about a passive Wolverine, which is a strange take on Wolverine. So
he's hung up his claws, so to speak. All right, well that's it. All the time we have for this time on the panel. Thanks for tuning in and checking us out. Thanks to Dave for going to all the hard work of making it happen. And I guess in the end, the short version is, if you just want to see a generic action movie, go see X-Men Origins Wolverine. If you want to see a movie that actually treats the character with some kind of dignity and respect, just read some of the good comics instead.